You can't put the microphone on the wood. If you put the microphone on the wood...
Doy, no duh. I'm the one that discovered that.
You didn't discover it. It's a common...
What do you mean a common thing?
Sound has been around forever. You can't put a microphone on top of something that's picking up vibrations.
Yeah, but you have to figure out where is it coming from. Is it computer?
It's coming from the fucking computer.
It's vibrations.
It
and
doesn't
I'm not
matter.
talking about like how
it
sound works.
It doesn't matter where it's coming from, though. It is coming from somewhere, so get it off of there.
Being on the desk,
so get it off of there.
Where the vibrating is happening, it makes it worse.
Right.
Yes.
So get it off of there, is all I was saying.
You love adding shit afterwards.
I did not...
Like, once you say it clearly and I realize what you're saying, then you're like, I said it thrice.
But I did say it thrice. I said it needs to come off the wood. That constant level you're seeing there is the hum that it's picking up.
Yes.
And you're like, well, but
I thought you were saying the computer because you didn't say the wood.
And then I said, no, I mean from the wood, from sitting on the desk.
That's when I understood it.
But that was the third time I'd said it.
Right. You didn't say wood 3 times. You win when you record, when the audience only hears that, oh, I said it 3 times and you said it, I heard it once. Anyway.
I'm not doing a show with you anymore.
I think you say the words in your head, or you're gesturing.
No, I wasn't saying
pointing.
it in my head. If I'm pointing, yes. I may have been also pointing, but I said would.
We need to start recording before.
I said would.
We do this?
Thrice.
That way we can rewind, because I'd love to rewind and say, okay, come on. Show me where this happened.
How charming of you to use the term like rewind.
That's true. That doesn't exist
It doesn't exist anymore.
I mean, it sort of does.
I mean, you can go backwards, but it's not rewinding.
I would still call it rewind.
Fast
forward.
My students don't know what rewind means.
Now, hold on. Why? Okay, there's fast forward, right? Why isn't there fast backward? Why is rewind? Why does that replace backward? Because rewind doesn't. Okay, fast forward means fast, right? And when you rewind it, it's fast. So why isn't it fast backwards? That doesn't make sense.
Okay, everybody, quiet on the set.
The Film Reverie podcast, I'm pretty sure it's take 78.
And action. Hello, Film Reverie listeners. This is Michael Beckemeyer, and I am joined, as always, I'm with by Balding Ewok.
Just say Ewok.
Ewok.
Forget it. It's not even worth the effort to do the whole thing. Just hairy.
Well, this is your problem in life.
Your small hairy friend.
This is your problem in life, is that there's not worth the effort to do anything.
That is my problem.
That's why you don't get anything done.
I'm so exhausted from moving, I don't want to do anything.
And today we have our guest, somebody I've known online for I don't even know how long. I do know you watched my first return to filmmaking about 8 years ago, so it must be at least that long.
It must be.
Gush. I remember showing you Gush, and you're like, "Oh, I like the disconnected storytelling, like non-sequential storytelling."
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Yeah, this guy gets it. And but then promptly never invited you on our podcast. You are now episode 77. So we've done 77 episodes. This is Sean Mannion. I meant to ask you if I was saying your last name right. We've never.
That is correct.
Okay, cool. So, the filmmaker, indie filmmaker, it's sort of like kind of what we do or have been doing, which is total, like, handmade, do-it-yourself, homegrown, grassroots, make-it-yourself filmmaking. And your stuff always has like an interesting look and feel to it, almost like a weirdness about it, like almost like that's like a tone that you go with. It feels like, I don't know, not unsettling, but just like an off tone, which is kind of, I always thought was sort of like your just filmmaking tone of voice, like the way you do stuff.
Yeah, that sounds right. I mean, I don't know if I'm doing that on purpose or that's just the way I am.
Yeah, it's just you. Maybe you're
I'm
just
a little off.
You're just a little off.
I'm a little off, so everything comes out a little off. So occasionally people are like, "Yeah, you've got like a voice," and I'm like, No, I'm just weird.
Right. Well,
You're original.
yeah. I
No,
mean,
I'm ripping people off all over the place. Nothing about me is original.
does David Lynch have a voice, or is he just weird? I mean, he's definitely weird.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so how did you get like tell us about how you got started in filmmaking? Like, where did you come from?
So I grew up in Anchorage, Alaska, the cold, dark north where you can see Russia from your house. And for a while there, like I grew up there. My family's from different places, and I was working in software for a little while, and it was terrible. I was doing quality assurance for business software, and I lost my job like twice in like 2 years. And I was like, well, if this isn't going to be stable, because this is supposed to be my safe, stable option, I gave up doing any kind of, because I always loved film. I always loved different kinds of art. Like I'm a big comic book nerd too. If I'm not going to pursue these art things that I wanted to do, like, and this isn't stable, like I might as well just screw it. I'm gonna go make films. So I signed up for the New York Film Academy 1 year screenwriting program. And like 1 year ahead of, like, I signed up for it like a year ahead, and I was like, okay, I put down the deposit. Now I have to get there.
From Alaska.
From Alaska, which is, it's about 4,000 miles.
Did you walk?
It's, I mean, I might as well. No, I mean, it takes long enough in a plane to get here, from there. So yeah, I moved here, went to school, didn't really know what to do after that, and started kind of slowly putting together shorts, and picking up whatever odd jobs I could do surrounding film. So not necessarily working in like production offices or anything like that, mostly because they wouldn't hire me. And that's kind of how I but kind of went after doing, making films. And at this point, I've done a couple dozen, directed a couple dozen things across like short films, like weird internet videos, like fake commercials, and then my feature meme.
Yeah. So, do you have a post-production sort of background on your own? Do you do your own post work also?
I do.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I do.
What are you working with, by the way? Adobe?
Most of my personal projects, I do Final Cut Pro 10.
Okay.
And if I have to work with other people, and also I teach Adobe Premiere. So I do like effects type work and titling work in After Effects,
Okay.
because I just never learned motion. But
Yeah. Me
when
either.
it comes to cutting, I'm kind of prefer Final Cut 10.
Okay, so you might be the first person we've spoken to in at least a long time, if not ever, who actually cuts in Final Cut Pro 10. No, there was one other person we had on our show.
You used to a few years ago.
Well, I used to because I teach. I also teach, and the school that I teach at, or the county that I teach in, they were Final Cut 10 people. Until I convinced them otherwise. But so what is it about Final Cut? Is it just that you are a Mac? Like, I mean, I'm a Mac. It was real hard for me to jump ship from the Final Cut thing, because that's where I learned how to edit, basically. You know, my first NLE was Final Cut Pro, and I was like, I was an early convert. My filmmaking friends were all like, that's not powerful enough to do what you need to. You'd be in the Avid. And I just hated the Avid. Like, I hated working in the Avid. But Final Cut Pro, I took to it. Like, what is it? Like a pig in shit.
Sure.
Or I took to it like Brad to a microwave dinner. I don't know.
I do make a lot of microwave dinners. That's hilarious.
But so what is it? So why you're not a full, like, because there's no judgment, but like why are you?
Well, the thing is, they don't update it anymore. You're stuck with it the way it was.
Well, no, Final Cut 10 though. He's in Final Cut 10. Which is the new.
No, I don't use Final Cut
thought,
6 or 7.
Yeah.
I thought
Yeah, I
they
use
quit.
X.
Yeah, X. They still update it
Really?
periodically. Yeah.
That's why I
Like
jumped.
twice a year. Yeah.
Yeah, twice a year.
Oh.
Yeah, it updates almost as often as Premiere. I like it because, for one thing, it's faster.
Yeah.
It's at this point, it's way more stable than Premiere. Like almost every time like any project that I start on Premiere will crash at some point.
Yeah.
If I don't only cut in like one session. Premiere is really clunky to work with effects, and even though I'm not doing my effects directly in Final Cut 10, often when I'm doing like early cuts of things, I'll do sort of temp stuff to see like how things look as it's going, and I can do that very quickly and very quickly see the results in Final Cut 10. If I do anything in Premiere, everything like slows down. Like, yeah, it just like.
Yeah. It is a memory hog. I often have to shut
is.
Premiere down in order to open up another Adobe thing.
Yeah, I like Adobe. I use their programs. I've been using their programs for decades now. I've been using Photoshop since the mid-90s.
Oh, yeah.
And I like what they do, but I have issues with Adobe from like a design and usability perspective, in that they're the dominant like apps or whatever, and because of that, they just sort of are like, no, all of our stuff is going to take over your whole computer. It's kind of, I don't know. I'm just like, fuck it.
So, but you teach Premiere.
I teach Premiere, and
do you teach at like high school, college level? Do you teach like in like somebody?
I teach at the it's called BRIC. It's basically the public access network for Brooklyn, and it's like the best funded like public access TV channel in the country, and we have a pretty good education program for like community education program for people who want to make shows. Like, you can just, like, if you're a Brooklyn resident and you want to make a show, you can just make a show and bring it in. But if you don't know how to edit, or you don't know how to shoot, or you need equipment, like, you can come in, we'll teach you how to use the equipment, how to use the editing, and then you have access to like some small editing bays. You've got access to some cameras and some audio equipment and television studios.
That's what we're missing by not being in a real city, Brad.
Yeah.
And I know this is the second time we've mentioned to you that New York is a real city, but there's nothing like that here. The library, you can go to the library and use their computers and stuff, but it's not like public access television, like fucking Wayne's World or something, where you can just put a show on. You know what I mean? And then there, by the way, there's a video wizard there who will also show you how to do all this stuff, and you can just go in and he'll teach you how to do it. Named Sean. There's a video wizard named Sean. And it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
It's a really interesting, like, I encourage all sorts of people to come to it because it's cheap, for one thing. It's like our Premiere class, it's 3 weeks, it's 6 like 3-hour sessions. It's $60. And in that time, you don't become an expert in Premiere, but by the end of it, you can cut something together.
Yeah.
So, which is like our whole goal. When like I have to tell people this because I get like students ranging from like, you have to be an adult to do it, so they'll be like 18, 19, and then like people who are like 72, and different ranges of skills and like anxiety about doing stuff like this. And they'll be like, oh, it's not good. I'm like, doesn't matter. You can put something together now. It doesn't matter if it's good. At some point, I've been doing this for 10 years now. At some point, I think I might be good. Not yet, but I'll get there. So you just started. It's been 3 weeks. Just fucking keep working.
How do you, I'm just going to ask you this because I have such a hard time teaching my students about like file management, media management. If I turn my back for a second, shit's all over the desktop and they can't find their files. And no matter how many thousands of times I've said, make yourself a folder, drag your files to that folder. If you do nothing else, do that. And they just don't do it. And that's one of the things that I did like about Final Cut X was that it was at least the media management part was at least more fluid, if you know what I mean. But what I didn't like is that they chunked it all into one like library file that you have to unpack just to get to your video files. So you know what I mean?
I do. When I'm teaching the media management, so our classes are built around like we have source media for them. And so we're teaching you this from this source media. It's organized. So when I'm teaching media management, I'm saying, look, do this thing.
Yeah.
Do put it in a folder and put your files in a folder. Don't open Premiere. Don't do anything else. Just put everything in there before you touch anything else. And then I tell them some horror stories about things that I've had to deal with about media management. The media management thing.
That's exactly what I do.
The media management thing is barely part of our curriculum. It's like, mention media management. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm going to spend like 10 minutes talking about this. That and like audio, like for both of those, like in our curriculum, curricula for editing, they're like, oh, we'll just, like talk to them a little bit about it. I'm like, cool. So I'm going to talk for like 5-10 minutes about media management now. And then when we get to the audio section, I'm going to take half the class to explain to you like the physics and neurology behind sound, so that I hope to God that when you people go out and record sound, that you don't do crap sound again.
What do you mean, you people? Civilians. Civilians. Yeah.
My students who are just like half the room is kind of stopped paying attention to me, and the other half is like, what?
Yeah, like you mentioned, like 70-year-olds, those are people that still aren't quite sure how to save things to a disc.
My God.
Like my parents. My dad's always confused about stuff. My dad is a pretty computer literate, but he still's like, I can't find the file. And I'm like, well, where did you put it?
You should have made a folder.
I said, and he's like, I don't know. I'm like, well, how am I supposed to find it? How am I,
I will say I would have thought I would have had more problems with like the students in their 60s, but like it's sort of a 50-50 thing, or it's been like where I've had students in their 60s who are like, yeah, no, I got it. And they get it.
Yeah.
And then I've also had students who are like 25 and like, what do you click? Do I right click? No, don't right click. Just click. Just like double click. No, don't double click. Just click it once. Stop right clicking. Just click it one time.
Stop right clicking. Don't click shit. Don't click. Yeah, I've started to think, okay, so all of my students are between the ages of 14 and like 18. They're like high school teenagers.
God bless you. I couldn't do it.
I can't do it.
Teenagers.
I can't do it.
It drives them crazy.
I like teenagers, but I like teenagers to sit and talk to them and let them know it's going to be okay someday. I don't always like teaching them about media management because I think that they're going backwards because honestly, their iPhone and everything, it manages all that stuff for them. It puts it in full, and you plug your phone into the computer. If they ever have done that, it automatically does it. They don't understand it at all in a way that I thought. You look at them and think you kids were born with Macs in your back pocket. You guys grew up around computers, but they don't know how to save files because everything autosaves for them.
They don't know where anything goes.
Yeah.
And they don't know where anything goes. They definitely can't find it. So like I assume we're kind of the same age. I'm in my 40s. I'm 45. But
I'm 36.
Okay, so he had to rub that in. But no, we're like in the same, like, I don't know if 30s.
We're in the same grouping.
Generation
more or
X,
less.
sort of like Gen X.
Yeah, I'm early millennial, late Gen X. It depends on. I'm in a weird in between space.
I don't consider you millennial. You're not millennial.
So we grew up at a point in time where we can, at least I can remember, pre-internet, pre any of this stuff, analog was a thing, and you had to be aware of where you were putting things and just labeling tapes and shit like that back before,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't have to do any of that. They've never like I had to save a Word document or it would be gone if I shut Word down.
Yeah.
These days everything auto saves for them and they don't have to think about it. So when I do need them to think about it, they're 15, 16 years old. They've never thought about it before. Ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
They've never had to.
I think, like, I'm not having to deal with that exactly, but I do have people who, like I was saying, like younger, who are just, yeah, when it comes to the media management, they're like, where do I save it to? I'm like, in the folder. In the folder, I literally just showed you how to do this. Like the number of people in a room where I'm like, okay, guys, well, because part of my process is also I kind of stumbled on this, but it has like reduced the number of like annoying questions. Is what I'll do in the first session is when I'm first showing them Premiere is I make them watch me go through the first like setup and batch of steps, and I'm like, don't open Premiere. Don't do it. Don't do it while I'm doing this. Just watch me do it, because right after I'm done doing this, we're going to do it together. Like at least 3 people after I've said that 4 times already, and we're talking like full grown ass adults are like in the middle of me like pointing out how it works. They're like, could you slow down? Cause I'm like 2 steps behind. I'm like, as I said at the beginning,
don't open Premiere.
Just watch what I'm doing. You don't need to be opening up Premiere. I mean, if you got it open, cool. But like, I'm not slowing down for this because in like 2 minutes, I'm going to delete everything I just did and we are going to do it together. And they're like, okay, but like, I'm like 2 steps behind. I'm like, motherfucker.
Yeah, and your job is to like be polite and patient with these people.
Somewhat. I mean, I am, because it's easier for me and my job to be that way.
Yeah.
But like, I don't have a lot of supervision. So depending on the night, like sometimes I'm swearing more than less. So more than not, Sometimes I'm just like, fuck. And they're like, and because I swear a lot, like just in life.
Yeah, me too. I technically am not supposed to be cursing around my kids, but I think I've landed on if I do, I just can't curse at somebody. I can't say, are you a fucking idiot?
Right.
I can't say that because somebody's going to go home and complain to their parents. I can say, I can't get anybody to shut the fuck up. Actually, when I say I can say, that's air quotes. Like I shouldn't say that. If like my boss heard me say that, I might get called in to discuss why I said that. But like I'm not saying, Brad, would you shut the fuck up? Which is something I actually want to say a lot.
Yeah.
But anyway, okay, filmmaking.
I was about to say.
So
it's all related.
It is.
So you started. So your film Meme, which by the way is a cool name. Where did you talk about where you came up for that? Because I've seen you had one short film that I saw that was like a time travel one, and I can't remember the name of it.
Time Signature.
Time Signature. Okay.
Yes.
So that had the same look, even though I think that I don't really know much about Meme except for the trailer that I saw. I think it's a drama, right? Like a drama.
Correct. It's a drama.
So the other one was more of a subverted sci-fi thing, it seemed like.
Yeah.
You have the same like look and feel to it. Like I could tell it's like when I saw some footage or the trailer for Meme, I was like, oh, that looks like something Sean made. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So talk about like where you got the idea for your movie, and talk about it a little bit, and then we'll talk about how you made it, which I feel like that's going to be an adventurous conversation.
Yeah,
it's a fun conversation.
The no budget thing,
and I want to get into the VHS stuff because that's interesting too.
Meme kind of came from a couple different places, which ends up being appropriate for the movie's story in the first place. Sort of the impetus to actually like get up and make it was 2013. I saw Spring Breakers, which I enjoyed. Like I wasn't like I wasn't initially planning to go to it, and then I like the DP, and so I was like, oh, he shot it. I want to go see that.
Yeah.
So I went and saw it, and I enjoy the movie, but it wasn't like the movie itself that made me want to make something. It was like the way that it was cut. So it's cut in this sort of it's linear, but it like jumps around a little bit with like flashes forward and flashes back. And I was like,
Right.
that's cool. I'm interested in that. And the way that was used to tell the story or to like reveal information or reveal kind of emotional states. I was like, that's interesting. And I started thinking about like, I really want to make some, like I'd been doing several shorts, and I just was like, I want to make like a feature. Like shorts are fine, but like I have a lot of feature scripts lying around.
Yeah.
And I started looking at the stuff that I had lying around, and one of those was a outline for like a sequel to Videodrome, because I love Videodrome, and around that time somebody had said there was some news article about let's remake Videodrome, and I was like, well, fuck that, you can't remake Videodrome. It doesn't make any sense now. Like it wouldn't make any sense to remake Videodrome in 2013 because videotapes, like half the people wouldn't even know what was going on.
Yeah.
And I'd met a bunch of, and that kind of was related to just sort of, I'd met a bunch of videotape collectors in the about a year before, and so I started just working off of that, like taking that outline and turning it into like, and this sort of vague story about somebody going like looking for a tape, and then started to make it more personal and started to sort of go roundabout with that, and dig more into the videotape stuff and dig more into it, just sort of like not like telling the story in a semi non-linear way, and that's sort of where it started.
So is it set in current times, and or is it
Yeah.
set? Okay, so it's set in like 20 whatever, but
Yeah.
there's like, that's why it's like there's like a retro feel to the thing.
Right.
Right.
And it's that, and what it's playing with is that there's a whole community out there that is collecting and preserving videotapes, and there's like a whole mix of like, just they like the aesthetic, and then there's some for which it's a little bit of film preservation. Whether or not they're films that anybody else wants to preserve is a totally different thing, but like, just like films, there's a whole bunch of stuff that was released on VHS. I think the number that I heard when I was in production was like 40% of what was released on VHS wasn't available in a different format. Like it was only available on VHS. Even now, even now, it's like, just because they're like films that were through like cheap distributors, or that just still somebody owns the rights and nobody knows who owns the rights. And,
right, like little like straight to video type movies.
Exactly, straight to video,
like Blockbuster or something like that.
Yeah. If even that, like, like little horror movies, little weird action movies, stuff like that. There's a whole like wide spread of this stuff, and so the film kind of dances around that stuff. It kind of plays with that stuff, which is how the VHS stuff factors into the modern.
So what do you think the obsession is with it? Would you compare it to like people who prefer records?
I think it's kind of like that, except for it sounds like it's kind of like that, except for it's not like the films look better.
Yeah.
Right. They definitely don't.
So
I mean, I won't
but
even
there
argue
is a
with
certain.
people.
I have watched a few things again on VHS just because I collected a couple. I have like a huge batch of VHS tapes and a couple of mostly non-functional VCRs because I got them as props for the film. Mm-hmm. And I've rewatched some things like that. And there is a certain, if you're of like a certain age range, there's a certain like just like comfortable feel
Like
to
nostalgia.
it. Yeah, exactly. Nostalgia, and also sometimes as much as you're like, this looks shitty and I can't see certain things
And
that
I
are
can
going on, it
there's
almost
like a
feels more
hissing in the
real.
audio. There's like a
Yeah, and
hissing in the audio.
yeah, hissing in the
Yeah.
audio, but it also feels like more real in a weird way. You're
Hmm.
like, oh, this is like this is what a movie like, because I was watching lots of videotapes when I was growing up,
Yeah. Yeah.
like a lot of people. I mean, and like there's a weird feeling of like, oh yeah, this is like a real movie. This is like the 20 million times I watched Jurassic Park. So, um, so yeah, so there's just something. I think there's some of that because a lot of them are in that age range of. I mean, some of them are definitely younger, but like
Yeah.
a lot of them are in the age range of like, um, well, at that time it would have been like 30 to like 50, and I think now it's probably closer to about 35 to 55 or something like that. It's been a few years, but yeah, so I think it's a nostalgia thing. I think there's definitely some people for whom it seemed and who it seemed like it's like a collector thing. It's like a it's like a oh, I want uh obscure media, because there is a lot of that stuff, and there's definitely it's kind of a subset of the horror fandom as well. It's like a
Hmm.
lot of them are big horror fans. So,
Hmm.
um, so yeah, so
Interesting.
it's interesting in that sense, I think. Um, but yeah,
So, how did you just talk? How you got your movie made? Like, how did you produce it? Did you like when we made our film? We literally had no more than like 5 people on crew.
mm,
There were some days where there were more actors than there were crew people making the thing. They're like literally me and Brad and like one other person. Some days. Well, no, we never had more
Is
than four.
there was
We
two.
never had less than 4 people.
Yeah,
mm,
sound
And
and
like there
camera.
are 4 main characters in our movie, so a couple of
uh,
times, like you know what I mean. So
yeah. Well, it was the first thing was I tried to crowdfund for it.
yeah,
Um,
so did we. Yeah.
and yeah, and actually you pledged for it. I was just double checking. You pledged for the film
Oh,
way back when.
so is that why you
It
just?
did
That's why you agreed to come on the podcast? Is like I was.
exactly. I was
Yeah.
like,
Okay.
well,
Okay.
he tried to support the
He
film
tried
when
to
it was
support. Yeah.
like, but so I did. So I tried to do that. Didn't work out. And I spent the next year basically cranking out like quick short films, and then another short film that I crowdfunded for Time Signature,
Mhm.
um, and uh, and basically in doing that, I started building sort of a network of like I already had a little bit of a network of people from working on different projects with 4 other people or doing some of my own stuff, but I started from there. Uh, Building out like more of a like group of people who were like, yeah, I want to shoot with you. This is this is fun if I only have to give up like a day or two, and so the way that we ended up getting the film done then finally about a year after I tried to crowdfund was I had my producer Carolyn Meyer. And she had come and started working with me on Time Signature as a assistant director, and so she came onto this as the assistant director and producer, and then so it was me and her, and then the DP Peter Westervelt, and we were kind of the core crew for the film,
Mhm.
and so we were on every day, and um, we were on every day and doing all the planning for stuff together. And then
Yeah.
it was sometimes sometimes it was only like 1 or 2 other crew members and then the actors, and sometimes we had a bunch of crew because
Yeah.
I called up friends and they were like, sure, I'll show up. I'm not doing anything on Saturday, because we
How?
mostly end up shooting the film on Saturdays, weekends and holidays.
Right. Well, so that's what I was about to ask you: is how many days of production was it? Did you,
Um,
I've done that same thing where it's like we would get together on weekends and make something, and if you're not careful, it fucking falls apart because
yeah,
it's harder to keep people excited about it 6 months later when they're giving up every other Saturday for the last like
yeah.
3 or 4 months.
Well, and this was 11 months.
Wow.
Damn, yeah, it's pretty
We
good,
had a
man.
couple of big gaps in production. Our first 2 days were in November of 2014. Then we didn't shoot again until January, and then we shot pretty much every weekend until mid-February. So basically mid-January to mid-February. Then a couple of days in March. Then we didn't shoot till May, and then we got the last day of like principal photography. We were actually shooting proper scenes in August, and then it was a pickup day in September that was just a couple of us, and then the last day was shooting. We've got these beer commercials throughout the film. So and then altogether it ended up being 22 days, including a short film that's a film within a film that we shot in the middle of it, which was mostly a different crew and totally different cast.
Did you shoot that to be a VHS that was played in the movie, the short film?
Yes.
That was my next question.
Yeah. So 22 days is a very reasonable time to shoot a film in.
Yeah.
Normally, well, not normally, budgetarily, if you had a budget, you'd just shoot those 22 days within a month or two. And, and then say, oh, we shot it in 22 days. But 22 days over the course of like, what was that, like 10 months?
He said
a year?
11 months.
It's 11 months.
That's hard because actors do things like show up with a new haircut.
They go and do plays.
Yeah. I was very fortunate in that all of my actors are experienced and very professional, and when something like that came up, well, for one thing, my lead actress, her hair doesn't change. She's got very distinctive hair. She's got this big, like super tight, curly, like red hair.
Which is honestly, great, by the way.
What?
Which is great, by the way. I like the big. It's like a big head of hair. Yeah.
Exactly. It's great, and also like she doesn't change it much, and even when it does change, it's such a just sort of distinctive, like thing that you're just more like looking at. Oh, that's just an interesting, like, tight curl, dark red hair that you don't even really notice that it's slightly longer here or there, or slightly shorter here or there. But we had one instance where the lead actor, Shivantha, had to shave for another role. And he has a beard in the film, and his beard changes a little bit, but nobody notices. I sometimes forget which parts it is because he's just got a full beard, so it worked. But he had to shave it off, so we just reorganized the schedule. We only had a few more scenes to shoot with him, so we just were like, cool, okay, we're just going to prioritize your stuff. We're going to get you shot out by the end of March.
Yeah. Did you? Did you keep hold of people's like wardrobe and stuff? Because that was the other problem we had before when we shot something like this, is people would lose the shirt. Like the shirt that I wore for that scene that I need for the next scene. I don't know where it is. I couldn't find it. Sorry. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do with that?
When there was something that really needed to be like continuous from like one part of the film to the next, like, oh, these scenes take place during the same day, so there's that. I would have a lot of those, because some of it was just stuff that I like went out to the thrift shop with a couple of my actors and was like, does this fit? All right, I bought this is mine. Yeah. We're gonna use that. So this is my cute blouse.
This is
one of the things.
I think it'll look great on me when we're done with this.
One of the things that was both kind of on that. One of the things that was both kind of sometimes not not super annoying, but slightly like, oh, okay. But also at times super helpful was the fact that my lead actress Sarah does not have an extensive personal wardrobe. She's a very sort of relaxed, casual, like delightful human being, but also just very like, no, I have some t-shirts and I have sweatpants and I have like two pairs of jeans. And I was like, cool, you're gonna wear jeans and this of your 8 shirts. And she's like, great, because her, like, she acts and she usually gets dressed for things like people are like, here, wear this. And then outside of that, like, her day jobs are like working at a gym, and modeling, like, for art classes. So
Yeah.
like,
Okay.
there's not a need for a huge spread of it. And it's one of the things that I really like about her, is that she's just like, yeah, no, I'm just comfortable. I just need to be comfortable, so I'm comfortable. I have sweatpants and I have my t-shirt that's adorable. And I was like, great. I can work around that. So sometimes it would be like, do you have another pair of jeans? And she'd be like, I have jeggings. And I was like, okay, we'll go with jeggings.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, like, it's great because I'm like, hey, bring your jeans, and they're not a different pair of jeans. It's the same jeans because there's only one pair of jeans. So it was helpful in that sense. But we had a lot of stuff that was, for a lot of the film, is just focused on her. So there weren't that many instances where the other actors needed to be wearing the same thing on, like, different days. So with her, it was just easy to coordinate with her, and she would help keep track of her stuff. She's great. It really helped to have, like, that kind of experience, her experience and the other actors and their experiences.
I know we've already started talking about the film, but can you give me like an elevator pitch, or tell me about the film?
Sure.
And then go into, I want to know about the shooting for it to look like VHS as well.
Okay. So Meme is a surreal indie drama about Jennifer, an independent, a freelance designer who finds a weird videotape among her boyfriend's collection of videotapes, and she goes on a search for the person who made the tape, but ends up finding herself instead. So that's my pitch for it, which might have been one of my best, like, launches into the pitch. So if I could get that recording back, because I'm usually like, I have a hard time with doing those.
It's hard to do. It's hard to do. Yeah.
It's hard, and I totally respect the people who can just jump into it. I mean, I don't buy into it when they do, but the people who can just be like, yeah, no, blah 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 blah, and just launch off into their elevator pitch. I'm like, that's amazing.
It's weird because if you only needed 30 seconds to tell the story, it could be a short film.
Exactly.
But for me,
I have to leave out so much to do that. I'm like halfway through thinking about saying those sentences. I'm thinking about oh, I should mention this part. I should mention this part. I'm like, no, don't mention that. Just keep it focused. Keep it focused. Keep it focused.
Our film, when people ask me, it feels like it's like oversimplified into something that it's really not. By oversimplifying.
You mean like when I say it's a bunch of people yelling at each other?
Right, because I mean, it is, but that's not what it is, you know. Ours is like two adoptive brothers are interested in this, find out that they're both interested in the same girl. So, but that makes it sound like some goofy rom-com, and it's not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But as
Yes.
that is the most simple explanation of our story that it is. That we can do. I mean, that's like the log line or whatever. But I'd sit there and talk to you. I could talk to you for, our movie's like 89 minutes long. I could talk to you for 4 hours about what our movie's about. The conversation about our movie can be longer than the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's just how I do.
Yeah, no, same. Like, we could get pretty far into it. Now, you were asking about how I got the footage to look VHS. So
right. So, how did you plan it? How did it work out in production? And then what did you have to do in post-production?
So the VHS look for the bits of it that have that kind of VHS style to it was all done in post. All those shots were shot the same as everything else. And
you
in
didn't
post,
have to shoot it with the square format.
no,
4x3.
4x3.
no. What I did with that footage for what ended up in the film is I basically fed it into a videotape and then redigitized the footage.
Oh.
And
Well,
then I
that's
just cropped
easy.
it.
Well, you
Yes.
cheated. You
That's-
cheated.
Yeah, that's
I
not
cheated.
complicated.
It never. I tried a bunch of effects. I tried a bunch of like After Effects stuff.
Yeah.
It never looks right.
It's always cool for a split second, but the longer you leave something like a filter, I guess, or something, it does, especially for an extended, it does start to feel like manufactured. Yeah.
Okay, but there are parts that even in the trailer I saw where you know how the tracking goes off and that thing goes off.
Yeah.
Did you do that on purpose? Throw the tracking off?
The tracking is there's a couple of them where the tracking where that was just basically I had two VCRs and I would just copy from one tape onto another tape and then switch and then copy, and I did iterations and
Yeah, because that degrades it to look more like VHS. Yeah.
And they're older VCRs, so it degraded fast.
They're older VCRs. You didn't have a new VCR laying around.
I think there are a couple like that are only like 5 years old or something. Like not that I have, but that exist. Like I think that I don't think it was that long ago that they stopped actually manufacturing them.
Is that weird? It's like what took them so long to stop?
Exactly.
But it's so cool because
some of that is an overlay though. Some of that's like I found an overlay of like VHS like tracking footage, and I was like, okay, there are points where I need this, and I'm just going to overlay it.
Right, okay.
So yeah, there's a little bit of that.
The beauty, the coolness about that is, we were talking about this the other day too, is like the handmade aspect of what you did. Like you didn't affect it somehow, or you didn't like computerize it or digitize it. You actually went backwards to get the actual thing that you were trying to mimic. As instead of mimicking something, you went back and recreated the actual thing. Like the tracking, all that stuff. And like you putting stuff on. I was teasing you about cheating, but it's not cheating. That's actually that's extra work that you went into to make it look like what you wanted. That's going even deeper into the nostalgia rabbit hole, which is cool.
Thanks. Yeah. I think it was. I mean, if I could have figured out how to do it in a way that I liked in some other with some other setup, I might have done that. Mm-hmm. But you know, in the end I was like, well, but it was also ended up being fun. It was like kind of fun to just like solve that problem. And now I can, like, people will call me up because they know I have this stuff.
You're the VHS guy.
I'm a VHS guy, and they're like, hey, I have like my grandma who just died was on like Price is Right like 20 years ago, and all we have is a VHS tape. I'm like, cool, just bring it over and bring me some beer, and I'll copy it. Because they're like, how much does it cost to do that? I'm like, it costs me not paying attention to my computer for an hour. Like, so bring me some beer. Or give me $10 if they insist on giving me money. I'm like, it's but yeah, so it's fun, and like it was also an interesting problem solving thing as far as like, how do I get it from the computer onto the VHS tape? Because like I found pretty quickly ways to get it from the VCR onto the computer. That was an easy attachment. But for a while, for the first sort of batch of things, and I've got a different workflow now, but for the first batch of things, I had to burn the DVD.
Ugh, yeah. And
then I still had, it doesn't work anymore. I have to get rid of it. But an HD DVD player, so not the Blu-ray, but the other one. And I had to use that to play the DVD because it has a component out, you know, the red, yellow, white, but my Blu-ray player doesn't. So I was like, okay, I'm going to plug this into the VCR and then play it and then record on the VCR. So
did you ever think 15, 20 years later you were still going to be having VHS problems? Like, did you ever realize?
No, because I I'm very much about the nostalgia is nice, but I'm very much about like, oh yeah, no, there's the new thing. I'm into the new thing.
Yeah, yeah. Even so far as the HD DVD,
I,
like,
I almost, it's weird because as he's talking about that, I'm like, oh, well, I know how to do that. I would just put it on mini DV and then mini DV into the computer. But it's kind of
do you
too
still
late
have
now.
mini DV shit?
I do.
You need to get rid of some of your shit.
Well, I did.
But so okay,
I
so
still have VHS, by the way. But
Nice.
you
he's
know
got
what?
kung fu movies. He's got
Yeah,
kung fu movies.
but
on
you know
VHS.
what sucks is I went through all the effort to like save these kung fu movies, thinking, this is the only way I'll be able to see them. And then I got on your Amazon, and it's got all of those things that no one knows about. That I thought they have every
Yeah.
kung fu movie on Amazon.
Yeah.
So I'm like, as we're moving, and I'm like, I don't need this anymore.
I think you were probably the only person, like the long tail. You know how
Yeah.
you're like the one person still watching the kung fu movies on Amazon.
No, I'm not. They put it there. Let's not get off on that.
So okay, post production. Okay, so
Yes.
when we did our no budget movie, that by the way, we shot in 9 days, and
Wow.
we shot when we were doing like 10 or 15 pages a day. It's a bunch of dialogue. It could have easily been a play. We shot it in 9 days, compressed, because we'd suffered through shooting it over a long period of time last time, and that didn't work out so well for us. So we're like, no, we got to do this we got to do it like this, and it was great to do it that way, to have done it both ways, and to actually get something finished. But our post production process is like me and Brad. Like I did most of the rough edit.
Yeah, I did
and
all
then
of the logging and capturing and whatever. We didn't have to capture, but I had to.
merging files and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But in Premiere, you merge audio and video files.
Yeah.
But it's literally just us. And when you first start out with that, you're like, I'm never going to finish this edit. There's so much footage,
long.
and editors sit there and do this all day, every day. Except they have editing assistants. They have round the clock people tagging and logging footage overnight, so that you can just come down and sit down and start editing. Oh, this footage is just here in this folder for me. I'm just going to start working on this. We didn't have any of that. We had just
exactly.
me and Brad, and we handcrafted this movie by ourselves. So I'm assuming your thing was kind of like that.
Pretty much. I mean, I think I had the post-production process was a process. One of the fortunate things was it was really spread out. So basically I would do all the logging and the media management and the synchronization during the week after a shoot was done, because I had at the time I was working a little bit less than I'm working now, so I had time. So I wasn't doing everything at once. I was able to do it spread out over those 11 months, and I was cutting scenes together and sort of assembling the film as we were going. So I had that advantage to it, and that was just me. But then we got through the last days of shooting, where we shot the fake beer commercials for the film, and I cut together the beer commercials, and I had what was essentially a sort of an advanced rough cut. The scenes were pretty, a lot of the earlier scenes were pretty well polished, and it was a lot more sort of together. And we were looking at it. And I was looking at it and thinking about it. My producer, Carolyn, was, and I were talking about it. And we had we sat down, and Carolyn's great. And she has this way of, when she wants to tell you something that she thinks that you don't want to hear, where she's like, okay, so.
Oh yeah, well Brad just blurts it out.
So she's like, and then before she could finish the sentence, I'm like, so the movie's boring. And she's like, well, that's not what I was going to say. I'm like, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying I just cut together. So just to kind of go back to what I was saying before about, I came out of Spring Breakers, and it has this sort of nonlinear flashback, flash forward structure to it. That was how like early drafts of the film were written. And in fact, up until we were getting ready for production, that's how the structure of the screenplay was. But as we were getting close to production, I was like, you know what? It's going to be tough just to mentally process this for production. So for the sake of production, I'm going to take the script and I'm going to reorganize it linearly. And then I started doing rewrites and it was linear. And then the film was linear. And then we shot it with this idea that it was linear because I'd kind of forgotten. And then as we were talking then, I was like, we should go back to what it was earlier in the process and sort of break the linear nature of it and reorganize it. And so then the next couple of months, where I already had a cut of the film from beginning to end with some temp effects and some temp animation, that was there. And then I threw pretty much all of it away. Like the scenes stayed more or less cut as they were, and then we refined them, but then rearranged the film.
The order, the order of things,
yeah, the order of things, and started recutting some of the scenes a little bit, gutting a couple of them because it was just like, this is redundant. And like nothing, I feel like nothing makes me like think harder about my writing later on than just having edited something. Yeah. Where I'm like, why did I have them say that?
Yeah.
They didn't need to say that. This is stupid. My writing is stupid. Why am I writing these words now?
I'm going to tell you, having to edit stuff you shot and having to edit stuff you wrote is like the biggest learning lesson. It's like the learning lesson. It's the biggest like lesson because you're the one that has to sit there and suffer through the shit that you made, and it is your job
over and over
and over again. It's like Groundhog's Day. And it is, it's great, but it's also, there are sections of my movie I was like, I fucking hate this director. Oh, it's me. Yeah. I fucking hate the person who directed this. Oh, it's me. Yeah. And you just have to like suffer through it. But that's part of it. That's how you get better, or whatever.
That's the hope.
That's the hope.
That's what I'm hoping.
I got better. Brad is still stuck in, the VHS Kung Fu movie days.
Hey, man, that's all right. I'm down with that.
So
I'm not super into the Kung Fu movies, but I can appreciate it, man.
But
I'm more of a Jean-Claude Van Damme guy.
Oh. He could split his legs really well.
Exactly, and that's all I care about. I just want to see the part in Kickboxer where he's like, basically he's doing the splits but standing on one foot, and that's how he's kicking something. I'm like, that's like, okay, dude.
But isn't it amazing that the guy had a movie career based on the fact that he could do a split?
Yeah, every movie.
That was it. That was his end. People were like, he can do a split? Put him in fucking movies.
Hey, it's Time Cop. Exactly. Where are we going to have him do a split? Oh, I know. We'll spill water
when
on the floor, have it electrified, and then he has to do splits on the countertops.
You're talking about the greatest scene in cinema history. I love that. My wife had never seen Time Cop, and I just had shown her a GIF of that, and she's like, "What the fuck is this from?" And I'm like, "It's from Time Cop," and she's like, "Time Cop." I'm like, "Oh, we're gonna watch Time Cop," and it was a few months later, but then it was on like Amazon or something for free to watch, and like, so we're gonna watch Time Cop now, and she's like, "Fine."
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not like
married?
a hardcore Van Damme person. I just enjoy it. Yes.
Yeah, you're still married.
She was like, I appreciate like that for what it is, and then not really, but she humored me.
I have to say though, Bloodsport, #1, I think. Wasn't it Bolo Young?
Yeah.
And Jean-Claude Van Damme?
The guy that let him kick him in the ribs and stuff.
Bloodsport.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's my favorite Jean-Claude Van Damme movie.
Okay. It's amazing to me that you have a favorite Jean-Claude Van Damme movie. That's how into kung fu shit you are.
Dude, Bolo Young is awesome. I'm a big fan of Bolo Young.
Yeah. Okay, so
anyway,
you're sitting here making a movie by basically, when I say by yourself, I don't mean Tom Hanks and Castaway. I mean, you got your, like, you guys. By yourself, you're on your own, not much of a budget. You're like, whatever you got in your back pocket, the Goodwill wardrobe budget, I know what that is.
Basically, yeah.
And somebody now, people, I'm sure people are like, because your film's won at least. I think I saw in one of your trailers that it has won Best Feature at something.
Yeah, we won Best Feature at the Art of Brooklyn Film Festival.
So that's congratulations there.
What's that?
Thank you.
Yeah. What's that there? What's that like having people see and enjoy your movie and give you an award? And so what do you tell somebody? What is your like 3 bits of advice you tell people or whatever if they want to make a movie and you know it's possible because you've done it now on a feature level, but you've also done it over and over again for short films. Like, what do you tell people? What's your
like when they want to do something?
What's your sage wisdom, Mr. Indie Filmmaker?
I guess I tell them not to. No. I tell them I have enough competition. I don't need it now. Basically, I tell them to decide what problems that they want to solve. Because people will look at the way that I did it and they're like, oh, wow, you didn't have to deal with all that, like, trying to secure funding. I'm like, yeah, but then I also had to deal with that, like, I could really only feed people and sort of move gear by Uber and like goodwill of everybody and work around everybody's schedules and do all this other shit. And like I just have to solve, you have to, like, I'm going to have to solve these problems.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I didn't have to go around asking people for money, which sucks and is uncomfortable, but that just means you have to like go through and do all this other stuff. You have to figure out where you're going to get gear from if you don't have money for it. Are you going to, like, we were very fortunate in that Carolyn's employer at the time was a small production company, and they said, well, if we're not using the gear on the weekend, then you guys can use the gear. Nice. So we shot with their gear. So, and we didn't have to pay anything for it. And so that was, but if like, you know, if Carolyn hadn't been involved, we would have shot on something else, and we would have had less access to materials. And you have to solve those problems. It's like, you know, if you go and try to get money, they're gonna change your film. Like, and I have a few friends who are going through that where they have their film that they want to do. It might be their first or second feature, and they have people who are interested in funding it. But then they're like, okay, but you have to change these things. I know you want to cast this person, but you can't cast that person. I know you want to cast a diverse leads, but no, because we have the money, and like, if you want our money, this is how it goes. And it's like, that's the trade-off. It's like you gotta choose what problems you need to solve.
We were talking about this right before we started recording, but it is something that comes up a lot when you people like, you're going to go make your indie film all by yourself, and they're like, yeah, no compromising. We're gonna stay true to our vision. But what it is you have to compromise on things you never have to compromise on if you just had a budget. Like you were talking about, where are we going to get a camera from, or lights, or something like that. If you had a budget, there'd be no questions to that.
No, you just go to a rental house or somebody, you know. And
you do, like, your actor has to go take work, paying job, and they have to shave the beard that now is in half of your movie, so you have to figure out what to do about that, because you can't say, no, don't go take that paying job, actor. Mm-hmm. You sit here and we're making art here, motherfucker. You don't just, you can't just do that. But you have to compromise on so many little things. You get nickeled and dimed to death. So that you can stay true to your vision, which, by the way, by the end of it all, it's like, so it has a potential of being so far away from what your original vision was because of all the fucking chaos that happens in production, you know? Yeah,
because you can't pay people, you have to kind of deal with their shit, which messes up your movie a little bit.
and I would say that, like, you know, in to speak to that, what you're just pointing out about how you got to change all the things, like doing short films with no budget before you go and do a feature, I think is something that one of the things that I saw at we didn't do a whole lot of festivals with the film, but at some of the festivals, other features that were playing, it was like the first film that some people had done, which I was like, ballsy, like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Like, you knew what you wanted to do and you went out and did it.
Yeah.
But there were also things about some of them, not all of them, but some of them where I was like, oh, you did things that I did on, like, my first couple of short films, or like, there are things here where like clearly you were, you didn't get like, because in the end, like when I'm writing for or when I'm working on pre-production for something like this, where where I know I'm going to have minimal resources, I then approach like whatever rewrite is going to be like the production draft of the screenplay with that in mind. I'm like, yeah, no, this scene can happen in a couple of different places. This scene could happen in a bedroom. It could happen in a basement. It could happen on the street. There's a scene that I would have to make some tweaks here, but like there's a couple of scenes in the film that were originally written to be in different locations, and then it was like, well, we have this. I'm like, okay, cool, so let's rethink how we're approaching that scene. And like if you go in eyes open, I think, and just like focus on what is the most important stuff, what is the most important, like I am trying to get this across. And if I understand the whole scope of my film, which is what your job is as the director, you understand the whole scope of the film while everybody else is doing their jobs, which are super important. And that, but like as everybody else is handling their job, you're like, okay, but I know how everything goes together. So I know when to say, this I have to keep as is, and this I can change, because it comes up. And like definitely like on set, actors be like, this line is feeling a little clunky to me, and do we need it? And I can be like, no, we don't need that line, so drop it.
So
and other people will be like, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure, I don't care.
So you're basically
you can't be precious about it.
Well, to me, what I to say it another way, just make sure I understand it. That you need to go in, if you're doing a no budget indie movie, you need to go in knowing, okay, I'm going to have to compromise. So I need to pick my battles. What parts of this movie can I not compromise on? And then I need to kind of be open to the rest. Yeah. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That is a much better way of saying it than I was saying it, I think. Much cleaner. But yeah, I think it's like,
no,
yeah,
I like your way better than Brad, but it's just because I don't like Brad.
That's fair. But yeah, I think that like, yeah, pick your battles is a good way, is I think the right way to put it. Is like sometimes it's important, and sometimes you have to say, no, we have to do it this way. Right. Because and sometimes it's like, no, it doesn't matter. Like there's one scene, it's actually like the second to last scene in the film. We were shooting it, and it was relatively early in production, and the actors were just like, dude, like this is just, I'm not feeling like this back and forth between us in the conversation. And I was like, okay, what about it? And they're like, well, it doesn't feel natural. It feels kind of like, I was like, all right, you don't say anything. You say your lines. They say just these couple of lines. Okay. And that's what we're going to do. And you just like touch his shoulder and then just go. And that's it. And like it was, because I knew that the moment wasn't about like what they were saying. It was just about like her walking away. And so it was like, yeah, it kind of doesn't matter what you say. And in the end, I ended up cutting all the dialogue from that scene. So
right, because there are just some scenes that it's no matter how many times you go back to them and rewrite them, you rework it while you're shooting. Yeah. When you get into editing, you're like, we never got this scene right. Like there's a couple of times where we rewrote this for us. We rewrote a scene like over and over and over again. Get it right. We run the dialogue or so. Well, he says this, you say that, but and then we get into production. Is like it still sounds like a fucking 12-year-old wrote this. Like what? And then so it's like then you're sitting there doing all kinds of efficient stuff like we're reworking the scene with your actors on set while all the crew people are standing around going, how much longer is this going to be? And yeah, it sucks time, but we finally, and then when you're right, when you get into editing, it's like you still didn't quite get it, but editing you can work magic. It's like I'm always telling people, it's like the editing is an illusion. It's a magic trick, because there are things that happened throughout the course of our film that we had little control over or whatever, but with like a well-timed edit, it seems like, you know, the world's greatest performance. And it was like just from editing tricks.
But
you know?
also, just to touch on that real quick.
Not the world's greatest performance. That sounded cocky.
But part of the magic is with audio, because I did some things with our movie where I had people saying things that they didn't say. Because they weren't on camera. You couldn't see their mouth moving. And so I was able to make the conversation flow better and get to where we wanted to get by just, you know, copying, pasting, and just doing some magic. Yeah. And you never know that was done.
Yeah. I mean, we had a bunch of audio problems, as you were saying, like living in a quote real city. Like, it's a giant pain in the ass to do any kind of audio in New York.
Yeah, I just heard sirens like 5 minutes ago. I heard the sirens.
I probably didn't even like notice it. Like, it's just happening all the time. So, but like between planes and like sirens and like shit that happens with like on our last day of shooting for about 8 hours, and we were still shooting through it because we didn't have a choice. There was reggae music playing outside. This was at my friend's apartment. We were shooting all this stuff in an apartment. So the reggae music, we were on the 5th floor.
That's
the
impossible.
reggae music was on the ground and maybe like 2 buildings over in a courtyard. Sounded like dude was standing on the windowsill with the boombox turned at full volume right next to maybe not the full volume, but like really loud, like just holding it up to the window. So we shot the scenes, we did as much as possible, and we actually like we kind of like with those scenes we were also like, okay, you guys go into the hallway where we can't hear the music and run the lines. And just run the lines and record it. And that scene, like if you watch carefully, well, one of the things is recutting it to be nonlinear helps that a lot. So I can cut around. I could cut around a lot more. And that scene ended up getting interesting. One of those scenes ended up getting funky in an interesting sort of way, partly because of like, okay, I have to work around audio issues, but also this works for the film, so
it's one of those compromises you would have never had to do if you had a budget,
dude.
But there are a couple spots you can't. Their mouth is not saying what they're.
Yeah. I need to see the scene now because you can't. It is impossible because music has the beat and it's going in a certain melodic way. Yeah. You can't cut if you don't do it in sequence. It's impossible to.
Plus the copyright issue.
You'd
also
have to do ADR.
And basically that's what we did. We just did ADR on site, where it was like, go over there, go to that other room where you can't hear the music, do the lines, and I will make them work in post. And I haven't had anybody comment on those on that scene to me. Like, I know, I'm like, his thank God, like that's a wide shot and he's not facing the camera, because those lips are not doing what
those lips are not doing what the words are doing.
Exactly. So it's just like,
So did I see that you're releasing it's coming out? How are people able to see this?
So right now, what we're doing with the film is I'm taking it on a 4-wall tour. I'm taking it to independent theaters around. We did Brooklyn in January. I'm basically doing 1 or 2 screenings a month. So we did a couple festivals last year. In my sort of filmmaking career, I've never submitted that much to festivals. I've done a few. They're fine. Like, it's an interesting like ecosystem that's just often been sort of separate from me, because like traveling to them was oftentimes like just not financially feasible. So I didn't spend a whole lot of time submitting to them. Right. But of course, but at the same time, I say that like festivals are great. Right now, I'm the guest director for the Art of Brooklyn Festival that we won last year. So, so if anybody listening has a film that has any sort of Brooklyn connection, submit to the Art of Brooklyn Film Festival.
What if we
Deadline is
changed the name of our
mid-April.
movie? What if we changed? I didn't mean to interrupt you. What if we
No,
changed
you're
the
good.
name of our movie to "Really Pathetic and Totally Awkward in Brooklyn"?
I mean, maybe. Is
Our
anybody
movie.
is,
There's-
is anybody is anybody in the film like from Brooklyn?
we could put up a little lower third that says "From Brooklyn." No.
A
Our-
couple of
but,
guys throwing, hey, how's it going over here?
But
we don't have Spike Lee or anything, in our movie. So, but say the deadline for
sorry,
for the festival again. I interrupted
so
you.
it was. I think it's. I should actually know this because, I'm. Hold on.
I have to Google myself real quick.
Yeah.
No, it's not his film; it's his festival. That's pretty cool.
So yeah, it's a nice thing that it's an interesting thing that they do where they have a different guest director, basically curator every year, and deadline for entries is April 21st. That's the
Nice.
late deadline. So the next deadline though, where it's still slightly cheaper, is the April 1st. So it's interesting that they do that, so that there's I think originally they started doing it because they had their first guest director years ago because he was their original director had to step down and they needed to find somebody. And then after that they were like, it's kind of cool to have somebody different do it. Let's try to have, so now they have somebody different doing it every year, so they get something slightly different. I mean, I'm friends with last year's guest director, and she and I have similar tastes, but I think I lean more towards horror and musicals than she does. So I think I lean more towards musicals than most people. But so
you mean like La La Land musicals, or
I didn't see La La Land. Every time I try to watch a newer musical, I'm just like, this is garbage.
So you mean old school, Rodgers and
Singing in the
Hammerstein,
Rain,
yeah, Singing in the Rain.
Favorite movie of all time.
Yeah. Okay.
Listomania, Tommy, those are great.
Okay.
So anyway, what was I talking about?
We were talking about your floor walling.
Sorry. So we did a couple festivals last year. We submitted to a handful of festivals. We played at Art of Brooklyn. We played at Cucaloris. We got into another one that I don't think did a screening, so whatever. And then I decided that I wanted to take the film on this sort of four-wall tour. It's something I wanted to do in the first place. It took some minor convincing for me to. It wasn't a lot of convincing, but it took a little bit of convincing for me to start submitting to festivals, because I was like, I don't want them to say they want me or not. I just want to show the movie to people.
Right.
But so that's what I'm doing this year. And so January we did Brooklyn. And we had a good turnout for it, which one would hope because I live here.
Right.
And last month it was the Allen Theater, in Annville, Pennsylvania. So middle of Pennsylvania, there's a little 50-year-old theater that's been renovated a bunch of times. It's really, really nice, really pretty. Went out there, showed the movie at 11 o'clock at night on a Saturday, and a handful of people came and enjoyed the movie. Some people drove a ways to come and see it, and I got to talk to a bunch of people who in a lot of ways would never have probably seen the movie otherwise.
Yeah.
So next weekend, the 29th and 30th, I'm doing 2 screenings, one up in Buffalo, New York, with at the Screening Room Cinema Cafe, and then the next day on the 30th, we're doing a screening in Brunswick, Maine, at Evening Star Cinema. So I'm going to both of those, and that's we're going to take April off for that, and then May I need to settle on where we're going. But basically, the idea being doing this sort of tour of small theaters, taking the film out to mostly places where I guess like it's a little less common to have like this kind of screening.
Yeah.
Like you would like where big movies come through, and there's both Brunswick and Buffalo are adjacent, and Anvil as well, adjacent to colleges, but not. I mean, Buffalo is pretty big. I guess I have no idea. My context for things is entirely screwed up. I went from Alaska, where the biggest city is like 300,000 people, to Brooklyn, where I'm pretty sure there are 300,000 people within about a mile of me right now. So my entire context for that is screwed up.
So
But
how are you swinging that? Are you like paying for the theaters ahead of time, so you're booking them for like a flat rate, and then you're selling tickets?
yep,
Yeah.
Doing your
yeah.
own PR?
Yep, doing all my own PR for which has been an interesting like learning experience
Yeah.
as well, as far as like, because when I talked to the people in Pennsylvania, it was so how did you find out about the screening? And so I took that information and I changed what my strategy was for
Yeah.
Buffalo and Brunswick. One of the other things that I think is important going into this, I'm very much about like going into anything with your eyes open and being a realist about it, is I'm not expecting to make my money back on these. And if I was going to be trying to make my money back, I would be doing it differently. I wouldn't do it this way. The point is what I'm trying to do is twofold. Is one, like raise interest and awareness about the movie on some level in areas outside of like New York, just by virtue of like, oh, somebody's bringing a movie here. Like maybe they're not going to come and see it, but when I do a digital release later this year, those are the areas I'm going to be marketing the digital release in, because they already had some exposure to the film. Like all of this in a lot of ways is, a way of sort of doing that kind of marketing and like sort of raising awareness outside of sort of this sort of filmmaking community that I have, as well as like just like when you go out and you have like an event somewhere and you talk about it online, that's way more interesting than what otherwise I'm doing, where I'm just like, hey, I made a movie, look at this behind the scenes photo, because I've been doing that for years now with the film. And like so it's all just like a marketing thing.
So
I mean, and I'm excited about like meeting people and talking to people about the film, and also seeing what's actually getting them to show up. But I'm sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask, is you plan on eventually having it online so that more people can see it?
So he's doing a digital
Absolutely.
release later in the year.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
like
yeah.
Netflix, or who? What are you thinking? Amazon?
It'll almost certainly be Amazon, because that's a pretty easy one to get up onto.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at what the options are for and the costs for doing it on the paid services, like iTunes and stuff
Right,
like that.
right,
There's those paths to it. So what it'll probably be is September or October, launching on like paid platforms, buy it, rent it, and then a month, maybe 2 months later, depending on, a lot of those things end up getting out of your hands, like somebody else's, and you're waiting on somebody else to like pull the trigger on stuff. And then not long after that on whatever subscription platforms I can get to. So it'll probably be Amazon. It sounds like from all the things that I read that like you can pay to get considered by Netflix or Hulu, but Netflix doesn't necessarily want your stuff, and Hulu's kind of a crapshoot. So that's
Hulu doesn't have a lot of movies.
Oh, well.
No, they're getting some more, but like at the same time, it's also pretty like limited. Like for a while, they had a lot of like indie stuff that now I think I only see on like Amazon, but I think they kind of narrowed down what they accept down to like popular indies, the ones that had a budget and stuff like that.
Yeah.
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 Okay, so people want to find. Where do people find out about you?
Or keep track
Yeah,
of.
yeah. Where do you want people to go to look into your movie and you and all that stuff?
So for the movie, memethemovie.com. And on social media, it's Meme the Movie. It's facebook.com/Meme the Movie, Twitter Meme the Movie, Instagram Meme the Movie. And that's where they can keep track of like what's going on with the movie. Those are mostly updated on a regular basis. And for me, I'm Uncle Sean on Twitter, and that's kind of the best, and Instagram, and those are kind of the best ones to find me at. I
just realized, do we follow each other on Instagram?
Maybe, probably. I feel like I did at one point. I might not. I sometimes purge. Did I unfollow you?
Oh, I don't know. You're just preparing me for it now.
It's it's one of those like things where I'm like, it's possible that I like purged at one point.
No, yeah, I follow you there. I just couldn't remember. It's been so long. Yeah, and you follow me.
Oh, I follow you. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So, okay, so you're Uncle Sean.
I'm Uncle Sean.
This is a great conversation. You're gonna have to come back one day. Like we're gonna force you.
Okay.
To talk about what you learned.
I like talking.
Like doing an indie 4-wall thing, because that is something that not a lot of people do, and it can be pricey. We premiered our film at a place, and it was like $600 or $700 just to get the theater.
Yeah.
And then you were to worry about selling enough tickets just to like break even.
Yeah.
And we weren't really worried about making money either, but we were worried about not making enough to cover the theater. So I'm sure over time of doing that, you sort of hone in on like what works and what doesn't work. So we'd love to talk to you about what you figure out.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out with it. And I definitely like doing I think it's sort of like our second screening in Anvil was sort of weird. It's sort of a weird space to do it because it's Central Pennsylvania, and people are like, I don't know anything about that place. I'm like, yeah, no, me either. But the theater looks cool and it's cheap. Yeah. And it was a good way of like, okay, so what's actually getting people to show up? Because there's no reason for people, like nobody knows me there. So
yeah,
how did I get them there? Speaking of like things on like the website, I am doing so it's related to what we've been talking about. I am doing on the website most Wednesdays. I'm doing a blog post series called Making Meme, and it's what am I on? Like part like
13. I saw
13. Yeah. Like I'm just kind of reflecting on like first started with like how it got inspired, and then through pre-production. Now I'm in the middle of production, and I'll be going through post-production, and just kind of like, okay, here's how this garbage came together. And it's sort of like mostly designed for like people who are like, I want to make a no budget film. How do I do that? I'm like, let me scare you.
Yeah, let me scare the shit out of you.
Yeah.
People don't realize the work that goes into even writing a screenplay and finishing it. Like, and then that's just like that's the first hurdle.
Yeah, that's the easy part.
Yeah, that is the easy part.
Easy.
And it's not easy. It's not easy writing a bad screenplay because you still have to finish it, and that's what a lot of people. It's like it's a discipline that goes into. It's so many different disciplines to doing it at all, let alone doing it by yourself with no money and no people that really want to help you and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So okay, cool,
yeah,
great,
absolutely, awesome.
Well, if you want to contact us, as always, we're still at filmreveriepodcast@gmail.com. I'm Becca Meyer on Instagram and Twitter. Balding Ewok.
On the everythings.
Yeah. The Balding Ewok on Twitter and Instagram. So until next time, do what Uncle Sean says and go make something, but be wary because it's a scary world out there.
Till next time, to be continued.
All right. Film Reverie Podcast is a production of Super Mega Ultra Entertainment and is produced by Michael Beckemeyer and Bradley Kingston. If you're enjoying this podcast, please be sure to leave us a 5-star review in iTunes. And visit filmreverie.com to listen to past episodes, and be sure to click like or subscribe wherever you find us. That's it for this time. We'll see you again next week with another episode of Film Reverie.